All right, welcome back, everyone. Today is our last session for cohort 2 of Outstanding User Interfaces for Shiny book. And we are on chapter 28. So the next chapter after this is very small, so it's part of today's discussion. This chapter is about Shiny and modern web development, where the main argument of the author is that you need to do a lot of work for creating UI and then creating Shiny bindings, input binding, and connecting it to the outputs if you are using a new template. So why don't you separate this into just the R part, where you as the data scientist work on creating a Shiny app with the server part mainly, where you provide your business logic, and the other part is the UI part that is mainly going to be handled by someone who is expert in that area. So in this example, I'm going to show you what is the final result of this app that is created in the chapter. So let me load the package first and load the app. So this is what the app does. It has this slider. Changing the slider changes the time series plot, and also it shows this phase plot. The example is about a certain equation. It's shown right here. And this is about an ordinary differential equation. So without going into the details of how the differential equation works itself, we are going to see in the next few minutes how to develop this kind of Shiny app where you as a data scientist are going to focus on the backend, and someone from the web developer world would work on the UI part. Before that, the chapter also mentions this Shiny app. I have it open right here. Let me reload it. And it does look very pretty. It looks it doesn't look anything like Shiny. It looks like a working website. And if I click on Let's Explore here, it shows us these components which look somewhat like Shiny, where we have the table for from and to trips. If I select work for from and select education for to, it then updates the table. It updates the plots on the side here as well, and then also make the appropriate zooms depending on what area we are focusing on. And then if you scroll down, it has more details about this project. This was, I think, one of the winners on one of the Shiny contests in the past. And what they do here is they use HTML templates with Shiny. So you can write all your UI using HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and then just connect the Shiny components by using a certain syntax where they use brackets, curly braces, and put the Shiny components in there. And there's no more discussion on about that in the chapter, but you can find that in one of the articles or on the Shiny website. So going back to the main project, the two packages that are used here are the Packer and the Golem packages. Golem is used for creating R packages that host your Shiny app, and the Packer package is used for adding the JavaScript dependencies, and you can use it with or without Golem. In this case, it is used with Golem. So I've already installed these two packages, and to initialize the project, the first step you need to do is create a Golem-based R package. So you run create Golem. In this case, the name is VDP mod. And then you also add Packer scaffold Golem. Now, this is 2025, and the time that this chapter was written is a few years ago. Since then, a lot has changed. And when I ran this the first time, it threw an error because I think actually not this command, but the commands after that, where I was using Packer to build JavaScript, that was throwing error because the versions of the dependencies we were using in this chapter were different than what they are available now by default. So I had to demote my version of NVM, the node version manager, I think. So NVM, I demoted it to version number 16, and then it worked. So for the UI design, they are here talking about the different states of the ordinary differential equation. So there are different steady states, and then moving from one state to another, you need to think about the business logic. So the business logic is first defined in R. The focus in this section was that you should not directly jump into reactivity. You should not directly create the Shiny modules. It is better actually to start with just plain R and define all your business logic. So here we provide VDP equations, the solve model function, and then the main function here is the generate model data. And once we have the main inputs of X, Y, and mu, it will then generate the data. And then this data is used for within the Shiny app for creating the plots as well as for, so there are two plots that are generated, this one and this one.
Yeah, at the end they just create a JSON to be sent.
Yeah. And this one is based on eCharts.js package. Um, Now to add Shiny, and let's go to our studio now and see where is each of these components. So we have put the business logic here in the model.r file, which goes inside the R folder. Since this is an R package based on Golem, everything goes in R. It automatically puts for you app underscore config, app underscore server, app underscore UI, and run app.r files. And the model.r is what we have added as the developer who is working on this particular project. And then we have added all of the functions that I just discussed with you in the model.r. Now within app server.r, we create our first reactive object, which is about the parameters. In this reactive, we have the input mu, and this will be coming from the UI. If we go to UI, here you don't see the input mu, you don't see the mu ID at all. That's because the goal here is to generate the UI from the using the web development projects. So in this case, the JavaScript is used, JSX is used, as we've discussed in the previous discussion, where React was used. But in this case, we are not using React, we are using Framework 7 and JavaScript. So that allows us to write JSX that basically writes like HTML, but creates components similar to how React creates components. So to do that, we have a div which has an ID that we provide as app. Remember from our previous discussion, Framework 7 also has an object called as app that we generate. And so we provide it with the same ID. And here we provide it with the index.js that will be generated for us by Packer in the www folder. Now, within the Golem structure, if we go to the inst folder and then the app folder, this is where the www folder exists. In normal Shiny projects, we put www directly in the root directory, but in this case, it goes into inst and then app. And so this is where index.js will be generated for us, but we don't change it by hand. We actually make changes to it or provide our JavaScript code inside src.js. And here we have the index.js where we provide all the relevant JavaScript code. And that is where we are going to make modifications, not actually modifications, additions to the div with the ID app. And the UI also has Golem add external resources function. This is automatically generated for us when you first create a Golem package. And what is removed from here is this bundle resources function. If you are just creating your Shiny app, and you don't worry about the front end using other frameworks, then this is needed by default because it creates this path object which uses the app.sys function, again coming from Golem, which basically targets app www, which means that anything that is put in this folder is installed by default. So CSS, JS files, they are installed by default. But since we are now going to use Packer function, sorry, Packer package, this is going to interfere with that process and we cannot use it. So we comment it out. So instead, they provide within the head function the normal part of the normal tags for the head. For example, the meta tag, where we provide viewport and the device related meta tag. And then this you may recall from our discussion on Framework 7 on Shiny Mobile. We provide the name as well as the content. The content can include other things, but by default, what is provided is the theme color. So here the theme color is this blue color. All right, so this was the UI. We also discussed the server part, where the new is the input that we are going to change. Now let's see the index.js to see how we are creating that user interface. Going back to the chapter. In the server, we also add this part where we say send custom message from model, and this is the name that we are providing, model dash data, and then all the generated data is sent to the JavaScript using observe event, and that is right below our reactive component. So as soon as the user changes the slider, which in this case is shown right here. So whenever this is changed, we or the server is going to update the parse reactive, and then based on the parse reactive, it sends this message to JavaScript. And this is just simply printing that slider value. So to add all the relevant dependencies, as I said before, we need framework 7, but it also mentions that we are going to use ES6 JavaScript syntax. For that, we need to install the Babel module as well. For that, we use Packer npm install. Running this automatically add this dependency for us. If I go back and then within the was in package.json. So within package.json, we have the dev dependencies, and these Babel dependencies are added for us. Next, as I mentioned, framework 7 and eCharts is another dependency that we need. So once this is run, they are also added right here under the dependencies part. So once we are done with that, we also need to we also need to modify the loaders. By default, the file is empty for loader.json. But now if I go to src.js, config, and then loaders.json, these two are added once we run use loader rule with these values, and use loader rule again for framework 7 loader. So now the loader screen that will be used will be framework 7 loading screen. And then there is a .babel rc file that is also created, and that handles the, I think, the bundling from the JSX. So if we go to the main root directory, we see .babel rc right here, and that contains this. And then at the beginning of all of this, we run packer bundle, which will bundle all the JavaScript for us and creates that index.js in www folder. And then we load our package and then run the app. As I showed you, it would launch an empty app because at this point there's nothing on the page, but the app does not throw any errors. Next, we then build our basic UI skeleton. I have already shown you this part, so we need to provide that. And we also need to make changes to the Golem add external resources and remove the part that we removed as I showed you. Next, we also need to make changes to our index.js. So going back, here is our index.js right now. This is at the end of the chapter. We get everything that you see here. The difference that I found now when we add Framework 7 compared to what we had before is that we now use Framework 7 Lite bundle. This script that you are seeing here, this is from the code that was shared by uh, the package author, not the package, sorry, the book author. So I downloaded this, and as I said, I had to degrade my version number, and now this is working. But for the latest Node.js, this is not going to work because Framework 7 does not have this thing anymore. It has Framework 7 Lite bundle, and within that, you have Framework 7 min .css. But this is working for older version of the uh, Node.js. So we need to import the Shiny object. We also need to import Framework 7. And then from Framework 7, we import the styles. Then Framework 7 also has these two components, the range and the toast components. If I go to node modules and then quickly find Framework 7, within Framework 7, we have components. And within components, we have the range and the toast components. So if I go to, for example, the range component, it has this range.js right here, which we load in our index.js. And then this is similar to what we have discussed about Framework 7 before, where you have to say Framework 7.use and then give it whatever components you want to use. And then we also need to create our app. And this is also again from Framework 7. Now, the app object is actually this is based on our discussion from React. In the React chapter, we discussed that we create an app.jsx, and within that, we can provide all our components. In this case, we don't have a file name app.jsx. We have a file name app.f7.jsx, and we need to use these names, excuse me, because this is what Framework 7 insists us on. So we have to use app.f7.jsx, and this is provided within components app.f7.jsx. Within that, we are importing another component, which is coming from BDP. If I open that, this is where we are adding all our code for creating the component for the plots. So without going into the detail of all of this JSX, essentially this is targeting these two plots. This plot, the time series plot, and then this phase plot. For both of these, all the code is written here, which is a mix of JSX with JavaScript. So JSX, as we discussed before, looks very similar to HTML tags, but it can include the props or properties of the component. For example, here we have a label property, and those props are specified right at the beginning of the function that we define. So this is vdp.f7.jsx, and then this is imported in app.f7.jsx first. And then within app, we use it because this is building our complete UI. So we have a page, We have a navigation bar. We also have a toolbar, and you can see all of those components here. So we have this navigation bar, and going back, uh, we have the page content, and this is creating our user interface as I mentioned before. And this is where we are initializing the widget for the VDP, which is coming from here for these plots. So once we have all of these defined as components, we can now use them right here by saying import app from app.app7.jsx. And then you may recall from Framework 7 discussion in context of Shiny Mobile that we use Framework 7, and then we provide the element that we are targeting, which is the app ID, an element with the ID app. If we go back to our UI, where is that? Right here. So this is where we specified the div with an ID of app. And so that's why we are targeting that here. And the theme, as you know, can be changed to iOS or desktop or uh, Android. And then the component is going to be the app, which we have imported here. And this is everything related to building this Shiny app. The author mentions that they all of this work will be done by someone who works on the UI side, which is certainly not us as data scientists or analysts. We are going to just work on the backend where we build the server part. On the UI part, all we do is just create this div and import the JavaScript code, and that's it. Which would be ideal if we have someone like that in the team and we don't have to worry about all of this. So I think this is everything that is discussed in the chapter. I did not go into the details of the exercises. Um, yeah, so in this chapter, this is what was discussed. In the next chapter, the only section is about multi-page Shiny apps. The example that they have given here is the brochure R package, which is still all these years has been a GitHub package. It is not on CRAN, and it still says it is experimental. But I see that Shiny Mobile version 2 now supports multi-page Shiny app as well, which at this point is also experimental. And the other section here is web design best practices, where they provide some examples from UX matters and don't rush into coding chapters from Mastering Shiny, which we have already read. So that is it for today and for this cohort. Thank you.
Yay!
Thanks, Angel, for not abandoning the chapter and putting on with me so that we complete this book.
Yeah, well, it's an incredible journey. 1 year journey, but it was great. So
Yeah.
again, stop.